Ring, ring, ring. All my friends are calling. All my friends are calling. Let's go play games today.
Good evening, Mr. Jepson.
Hello?
Wait, did you pick the phone up? It's a child's toy. Put it down.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Jepson. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to get off your fat ass and start making Movie Geek reviews again. It has been too long, you need to start working. As always, if you fail, no one will see it anyway. There are so many films coming. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Aquaman. Don't just sit there staring at me. Get off your ass and make a video. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
No.
Hello, I'm Neil from Movie Geek, and I'm back. It was late Saturday evening, the kids were away with the grandparents, the baby was tucked up in bed, and the wife had gone out. We'd recorded the podcast, the Man About a Dog movie podcast, or shall I say, the MAaDMoviePod. I decided to go see a film at 9:30. I got a sitter to watch the baby, and I went to the local View, all on my lonesome, and I saw Mission Impossible Fallout. Mission Impossible Fallout is the 6th of the Mission Impossible series, being the first in the series that had a repeat director. It is almost a continuation of the stories set up in 3, 4 and 5. It is a direct sequel to 5. But it almost feels like a 4th in the series if you disregard 1 and 2. But the film makes up for disregarding those two by having many nods to those films, including a character that is related to a major player in the first film, and the scene that is reminiscent to the opening of 2. What I liked about this is they played into the tropes that had been used recently. They lean on the fact that Hunt has been out and then he was dragged back in, and they give reasons for this and build on the lore. The action sequences are good, but to me nothing really stood out as it had done in previous films. There's no scaling of the Burj Khalifa here. We get 3 action set pieces, and they're along those lines, with Hunt hanging from a helicopter and doing a halo skydive, and also a massive chase sequence through Paris. There's also the usual Cruise running around and the infamous ankle break leap. Is Cruise getting too old for these scenes? He's 56. I don't know. But what I do know is Tom Cruise, love him or hate him, he wants to make a film that gives the audience a thrill. I love that about him. He's all about the filmmaking. How real you can make it, and if it can be done, he's going to be the one who does it. It isn't a perfect movie, mind you, with some of those some on-the-nose dialogue that took me right out of the film. The villain is an obvious addition, and a lot of the story is predictable, to the point of this have been done before. I was almost hopeful that this could be the second film in the franchise where Hunt actually stuck to the mission, but alas, he goes rogue once more, because he's the only one who can save the world. The story isn't too bad, but as said, it seems to have been done before. The antagonist is good, as it seems everything undertaken in Rogue Nation created more problems than fixed anything. The Rogue Nation are still around, yet mostly unknown, and there is a new leader. Right, I'm going to delve into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen the film, this is your warning. There may be another warning later. The film is a great example of casting harming the story. The villain within the film is so obvious that you could have had him twirling his moustache at times. Now, I've heard people complain that Henry Cavill isn't good in this, and that he can't act generally, but he did fine. I thought it was great with what he had to work with. From the outset, you know he is the one. You know he's the bad guy. Be it because the trailer showed him shooting from a helicopter, or because the infamous moustache. But, to be fair, he played it well. I'm thinking if the villain hadn't been such a high-profile casting as Cavill, I believe this film and the reveal would have worked. I almost think he would have made a better red herring and have someone else be the villain. What was good about the first film is you had a team of quite well-known, high-profile actors, as well as Jim Phelps, the main player from the TV show. And they all died within the first, 15 minutes? Well, Phelps turned out to be the villain, so he wasn't dead. Here, Cavill is introduced, and he acts like a villain playing a good guy. And it turns out that's exactly what he is. Why not have the actual villain be, say, someone like Jeremy Renner's character? Have Cavill be the red herring, everyone thinks he's the bad guy, but have it be Renner who has turned rogue. I know Renner was busy with Avengers or Tag, but it would have been quite a nice rug pull. Overall, the film was entertaining. I really, really enjoyed it. The action sequences were enjoyable, and to be fair, they were non-stop. They were all paced really well, and everything was at breakneck speed. It's fun to see where the franchise will go next, and to see what Tom Cruise will put his body through. I am convinced that he will die in one of these films one day. And if he does, he'll probably have a disclaimer in the contract that says his death is kept in, just like his ankle break. It feels like this film has closed off the series started with Mission Impossible 3, as Michelle Monaghan's character is now married off to Wes Bentley and travelling the world. There's a final goodbye between them, and then there seems to be something brewing between Rebecca Ferguson's character and Ethan Hunt. Now, after watching the series of films before seeing this, it does appear that the film is a kind of celebration of the Mission Impossible series, having some sequences in the film that seem like homages to previous films. I mentioned earlier that we get Hunt climbing a sheer rock face, as we saw in Mission Impossible 2. Now, we know he can climb like this because that was one of the big stunts that he did for the film. So they've set up that this character can do this, and through continuity, you have to use it again. It kind of makes up for what the lack of him climbing in Mission Impossible 2. There's also a reminiscent scene of from Mission Impossible 3 where he runs through Beijing. This time, however, he's running across the rooftops in London. My favourite part is where they homage the opening scene for the first film. They set up a scenario that tricks a guy, a terrorist, into believing that he is in hospital 2 weeks after some bombs went off, but it's actually a set. It works well and shows that unlike the second movie, they're actually remembering where Mission Impossible came from and what it was all about. And there was more masks. It feels quite redundant to score this film using the usual rating system. You know, we usually say it's either a good James Bond film or a bad James Bond film. But this is a great Mission Impossible film. Go and see it. It has already outdone Rogue Nation, so I expect a sequel in a few years. Tom Cruise doesn't look like he's about to slow down, but you know what I'd love? Is if Ethan Hunt, I know it's not going to happen, but if Ethan Hunt decided to go down the same route as Jim Phelps, fed up, and he actually became the villain. But the thing is, if he did become the villain, the IMF would have been destroyed. I doubt we'll ever see it because Tom Cruise is the hero, but I can dream. I am the Ultimate Movie Geek, and you can find me at the Ultimate Movie Geek on Facebook, Instagram, and WordPress. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and there will hopefully be more reviews like this. Maybe better ones, but never mind. I also have a podcast called the Man About a Dog Movie Podcast, or the MAaDMoviePod. I may have mentioned it earlier, and you can find it on SoundCloud and iTunes. If you want to contact the show, you can, and I would love to hear from you because this is why I've set this up, so that I can talk films. The email address is manaboutadogmoviepodcast@gmail.com or MAaDMoviepod@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.